Have you ever wished that you were someone else? Ever in your life thought about that? That come across your mind that you wish you were someone else? I think a lot of us nowadays, especially with social media and the expose of basically different people's lifestyles, sometimes you can think to yourself that you're better unlucky, and you look at the next person and you feel like they're a bit more lucky than you. And it's just that luck envy that it creates nowadays with social media and everything like that. And the reason why I can speak on this is because I've been noticing it myself. Just noticing the type of life that other people have, and you look at your own life and you just wonder to yourself, like, what's the difference? What are you not doing? That literally burdens me quite a lot. It's not easy looking at other people's lifestyles and just noticing that they're actually living. You know what I'm saying? But then people talk about religion, and religion talks about being grateful. And yesterday actually I woke up and I was going to the toilet and I started limping for some reason, but it was a bad limp. It started from my thigh down. So my whole leg on my right side was just moving weirdly. I couldn't maneuver it properly. It wasn't connecting with my brain somehow. And I was walking just in a limping way, and I went to the toilet, peed, came back, and I was walking right again. But I was walking normally again. But the thing, what really just the stock lesson from that was just be grateful that you aren't walking like that. And I just thought to myself, you know, yes, you can be happy that and be happy fulfilled in your life if you're more grateful, but it's still not going to prevent your I would say the luck envy, or it's still not going to make your life better in terms of the things that you want. If you understand what I'm trying to say. I just understand where people come when people say be grateful and stuff. I really understand it, but there's a lot to be said with the luck envy. You know what I'm saying? I have never thought to myself, what, I want to be better. I want to be better looking than someone else. I've always just looked at the lifestyle that people have. I guess sometimes I also think about piece to teeth. Yeah, it's actually everything. It's actually everything because I think to myself, when your life is so difficult and maybe you perceive your life to be difficult, and you've gone through a lot of like turmoil or obstacles in the way, you start realizing that other people didn't have to go through the same obstacles as you. Yes, maybe they had, okay, but maybe they were easier. And it's something to be said where you look at life and you think to yourself, maybe the only reason the people who are successful is because there are less obstacles. But then you look at someone like, Francis Ngannou, who had to travel through deserts and being relocated back to where he traveled through the desert to get to Europe from. It's just things to think to yourself, okay, cool, there are some people who had to struggle to become successful. But those are the very minute amount of people, if you think about it. That's a very small percentage of people who have to go through real hardship. In fact, most people who go through hardship don't actually get out of their hardships. Most people, most of the time. Hence why a lot of people like religion, because religion is more of like a coping mechanism. But I think I think most people don't get out of that situation. In fact, you look at someone like Kylie Jenner, for example. Okay, and yes, she's also a percentage, a high, like a minute percentage when you look at if you compare her to the average person. But just take that format of her life and the fact that she was born beautiful, she had money. Just take that format and then like trickle it down to just like the normal person who has the same setup as her. That's like the average person who's living a good life. It's not necessarily like they worked harder than you or they're smarter. It's just that they got more lucky. Okay, but you take her like Kylie Jenner and you see her life and you wonder to yourself, okay, maybe you're super unlucky. And the fact that she's a girl and she's actually outclassing you in terms of wealth, and you're a man, and that's true, but on an average scale that doesn't work out most of the time. But it's actually changing as the time goes. But my thing is just like look at her and just think about this like the life she's living and how easy her life has been. Okay, like for most people who are successful, their lives weren't that difficult. Okay, like if you took the doctors, the engineers, the people who are living above average, and you ask them how many obstacles they've gone through life, what you'll start to notice is that most of them had less obstacles than the people who are actually doing poorly. But people can look at someone who's like homeless and they're driving in a nice car with less obstacles in life and think to themselves, a normie and think to themselves that, this person didn't work hard, it's their fault. And it's always like, it's their fault. And it's like, sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes you're born in a... It's like looking at... Yesterday I was walking from the shop and I ran into, a stray dog. And this dog is like thin. You could see its bones. I'm thinking to myself, it's like a dog. It's a stray dog. What did the stray dog do? Nothing. It's just the circumstances in its life led it to the position it's in. Okay? And that's a bit of genetic determinism. But like I look at genetic determinism and it factors out environment. And that's where I have to push back. Because environment is super important for the progression and the development of a human being. Okay? Environment is a huge factor. So the spawn pill has to be, seen in a great light. It has to be at the top. The spawn pill is everything. One of the reasons why Africans are the way they are is because of the spawn pill. Okay, you spawn into an environment with sun, enough food, vegetables, just you spawn into an environment where the conditions don't make you think a certain way or in a certain avenue. You spawn into an environment where the conditions tell you to breed more. You spawn into an environment where your culture is created so that it forms the way that you live, and the way that you live is kind of primitive, seen as primitive from the modern human being and the European human beings at that time. Okay? You're spawn in an environment where basically you're not in control of the output. Okay? So if we can look at Africans and look at them and see how they've evolved over time, can't we look at a human being and think to ourselves, maybe this environment created this human being? Okay? Think about it. Think about Mike Tyson. The environment created him. He was never going to be Mike Tyson had he been born in a good suburban area. He needed to be fierce, ruthless, and brutal. And only an environment where there's gang violence, there's prostitution, there's all the bad stuff. That's where Mike Tyson's created. It wasn't his fault. It wasn't he. You know what I'm saying? It's only after he comes back into life now he starts thinking because he's old, and now he wants to be a better person because he realizes that maybe the things he was doing weren't right. But I really look at life and I think to myself, some people are really lucky, okay? But yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's extremely difficult not to just ponder about the opportunities that other people have and you ask yourself, why not? But then, the Bible says, just be happy that you're not going through pain. In fact, pain is what we actually all like trying to get away from. It's pain. Pain is somehow to humans like the juggernaut. Like we try to avoid that as much as possible. And you can think about life, striving. Most people are just trying to move away from pain. You want to get money so you don't have the pain of not having money. You want to have sex so you don't have to deal with the lust or the sexual just need that you can't fulfill. You know what I'm saying? You want so many things. Like for me, I want a car. It's because of pain. Because so most of the time it's because of pain. Okay? And if pain is one of the biggest results why someone is in a bad position, you got to think to yourself how much pain that person went through. But most normally don't want to think this way. Anyways, man, it's peace. It's Limo Black. I'm out.